so fantastic to see lots of old and new beautiful people here, and what an amazing backdrop. I was really taken back when Michelle asked me to speak at this event. Like many of you, I suspect, I found myself in many leadership roles over time without necessarily really sought them. I didn't actually seek them out. I am now, but I didn't then. And I've accumulated over that time like more than 15 years of experience in senior leadership. Can you hear? No? Without really having studied leadership in any formal sort of capacity. I had a really extraordinary grounding in my undergraduate training at the Northern Territory University, which is, for us old people, NTU and not the CDU. And where I met incredible role models, really ferociously intelligent, strong nurse leaders. And there was also some horrors. The phrase nurses eat their young really does come from a place of really learnt experience for me. And to be reflective and honest with myself, people have given me that feedback where that's who I have been. So from that journey of experiencing and being that person, I've really had to grow and learn and reflect throughout my leadership journey. When I did my master's degree in health service management, and then I followed on with the Australian Institute of Company Directors course and all my other postgraduate studies, I suppose I was really exposed to contemporary thinking about leadership and management generally in a way that was different from when I was in the 80s and moved through that process. But I think what was lacking in hindsight was, after reading this book over my holidays, page by page, were really culturally specific resources that actually reflected the reality of what it's like working in the healthcare setting, and looking at both the strengths and the weaknesses of what being a nurse is really about. Because nursing doesn't essentially have a culture of personal development which impacts on our communication, our teamwork and our leadership and our subsequent retention of our staff. It's not actually something that drives our culture. Leading the way in really chaotic times needs a really practical guide to shift us from theory to practice. This book is really practical. It is so incredibly practical. I found it really extremely useful, and it helps us take a real inside-out perspective, strengthening our emotional intelligence and improving our ability, I suppose, to read ourselves better and to know what to do with our team when they're feeling really stressed. There's always a beautiful child that rings us in these moments. I think this book provides us with a roadmap like no other. And I mean that sincerely. Like, it was so easy reading this book, and I felt like it really, really mapped out through Michelle's really compelling knowledge around the nursing culture, which is so unique, and only us in the room that are nurses really understand what we're talking about when we talk about nursing culture. The context of our relationships, the context of our power relationships, the context of our personalities, all of these things influencing our ability about how we communicate. How do we connect with ourselves, our colleagues and our patients? And all of this ultimately leads to the quality of care that we give at the end of that line and our well-being ourselves. I think Michelle provides nurse leaders in her work and also through this amazing book which I've already got so many orders on because I come from about 5 generations of nurses, and there's so many nurses in my family, and I think, wow, how can I gift them something? Really practical advice, real life examples that enable us to better lead our teams and ourselves through really challenging times in the context of our healthcare environment right now. Transformational leadership is said to be one of the best leadership models for dealing with change. It occurs when 2 or more people engage with others in such a way that the leaders and the followers raise one another to higher levels of motivation and morality. It's a model that produces outcomes. It gives us team autonomy. It reduces impact of uncertainty and really, really increases our feelings of safety and engagement. I think with your clinical experience combined with your psychology experience, you've really managed to develop this model which combines transformational leadership and situational leadership. And I use both of these in my life and in my work all the time, never understanding the importance of actually mixing them together and what that looks like together. What you can only describe as organised common sense. What music to our ears, hey, as nurses. Organised common sense. In her model, she provides us with nurse leaders what we crave, Michelle, a way of working with both our head and our heart. And it leaves us being energised and being fulfilled, being able to have something like this. So I read this book personally really slowly, page by page, day by day. It took me ages. I felt very challenged by some of the things that I read in this book about myself and my own leadership style, particularly around emotional intelligence, which I thought I was the most emotionally intelligent person on the universe until I think I read this book. And it was very confronting, but I felt like it was a safe thing. It didn't feel like I had a cat of 9 tails out on me. Really understanding self-awareness and self-regulation, also thanks to my GP, social awareness and social regulation. So I took a really big deep dive into this book, and I really started to think, okay, I thought it was just going to be a book about, leadership and whatever. And it sort of hit me. It really hit me that there was so much more about someone who's got all this experience that really had a lot to learn. And so do students and like everyone I know in terms of not even nurses could actually really get from this book. And I really understood about, the dangers of being authentic when it leads to drama and reactivity. And me being the drama queen of the universe, so I had to really, really own that. And it really helped me own that, Effective engagement skills that help us adjust our style and know what our staff need at the right time that makes it the easiest. How to use a lens of dysfunctional nurse identities and better understand the dynamics around me to know what's best for my team. How to better understand the interactions which actually create drama and power struggles in our wards and in our units and in our health services. Nurse identities, my God, they were so described. I was like, this is who I am, and this is who, you could just see them so beautifully. Their characteristics and how becoming a transformational leader who is objective and present and authentic, how do I escape these identities and become someone that I want to adopt? And what sort of leader do I want to be? And I want to adopt those traits and characteristics. It was fantastic. It walked me through that in a way that I felt so clear and so empowered to really understand. And also to know how to reflect and plan for future success. I feel so excited that as Northern Territory nurses and leaders, whether you're a novice to an expert, whether you're a clinician, you're a manager, you're a researcher, you're an educator, this is, I believe, an amazing resource. It's going to be great for us as Territorians, but great for Australian nurses. It may not be right for everyone, but for me and for many people that I've shared this stuff with, it is something I suggest every single one of you have on your bookcase, and you pull it out when you're working with a student, when you're working with yourself, when you're working with your manager, when you're working with a complex situation. There is a really clear roadmap in this book to help every single person in this room. And I celebrate you, Michelle. I congratulate you. What a fantastic accomplishment and what a great gift to the Northern Territory and for nurses. And thank you very much.
Thank you, darling. Well said.